Welcome back to Six-Sided. We're live. Please share. Please hit the like button. Get yourself subscribing. We've got a brilliant panel for you tonight as we look back at an epic weekend of Premier League football. We look ahead at Man United versus Bournemouth tonight, where United get the chance to go fifth in the Premier League if Ruben Amorim can peel himself away from slagging off the academy players. We're looking at the title race as well. We've got some amazing fact or fiction questions for you as well. I'm joined tonight, back by popular demand. Griggs is with us. Thank you for joining us, my friend. It means a great deal. David is here with us tonight. He's got a vest on. The guns are out. And as a Lakers fan, which other basketball team do you hate the most? Is he going to get it right?
Mate,
Is he going to get it right?
Mate, it's a nice top. That's why I wore it. You know? That's literally it, bro.
I love it. I heard it's the Pistons. I heard it's the Boston. No, not the Pistons. The Boston Celtics. That's their biggest rival. That's their biggest rivals. There we go.
God knows.
And Wolfie's here. The big bad Wolf is here. He huffed and he puffed, and they blew the brick wall of Tottenham down. And Thomas Frank. There's internal doubts now arising, according to Sammy McBell. So well done yesterday, Wolfie and Forest. I thoroughly enjoyed the spanking of Tottenham.
Yeah, I don't know about brick wall, man. I think that was the house that was made of straw. It was terrible by Spurs. It really was. But I've enjoyed it because my brother supports them, so I've had fun.
Oh, wow.
There we go. And I feel like that fixture this season, because of the summer and Gibbs White, I think it adds like an extra little je ne sais quoi to it, which was nice to see. So, and he's under pressure, and in fairness, we're going to start there because we've got no Tottenham fans that wanted to come on tonight. It's funny how they won 2 games on the bounce, and they were like, "Oh, can I come on, Terry?" They lose, and they're all washing their hair again. But fact or fiction, and I'm going to go to Wolfie first on this. Sacking Thomas Frank won't fix Spurs. Any coach needs time to implement ideas and to get the right squad.
I'm going to say fact and fiction on this one, and I'll explain why. Thomas Frank, I don't rate him. He can't make that jump from Brentford to Spurs. I think everyone says pragmatic. I just think people are polite. Let's call it as it is. He plays a boring brand of football. It's just a polite way of saying that. I just think Spurs as an institute have seriously bigger problems than Thomas Frank. I just think the manager's rubbish, the squad's rubbish, the club is rubbish. They've blamed everything on Levy for decades. Levy's gone now, still the same problems at Spurs. There is nothing good about that club apart from we get to laugh at them week in and week out. And I think they find themselves in this weird zone where they're trying too hard to be a Big Six team. So the expectations from their fan base is we've got to go for an Eze. We've got to go for a Morgan Gibbs-White. We need to sign these big star players. But the reality of Spurs is they need to stop thinking of themselves as a Big Six team and start to rebuild basically from the foundations back up, because they are not that team. I know they live in the shadow of Arsenal. Even though Arsenal haven't won anything for 6 years, everyone knows Arsenal is the bigger club. But it's the expectations of the fan base that need to be reined in. They won a Europa League trophy last year and just avoided being relegated. That's the most Spursy thing that can ever happen. And I just don't see a short-term fix for them. This club will take 10 years, at least, to be fixed. I never think in my lifetime I will get to see, and I hope this doesn't happen, Spurs lift the league title or a Champions League title. So in essence, you could argue they peaked last season by winning the biggest silverware they could, which was the Europa League, because that got them Champions League. So until their fans understand what that club is and what that club can achieve, they need to rein it in. I really do think they need to rein it in. I don't think Thomas Frank is good. I don't know what his identity is. That's the big thing with him. I watched Spurs yesterday, and I've seen them a few times over the season. They look like a different team every time they play. I haven't seen this philosophy of his in bed. I think he plays the opposition more than he plays his own system. So he went into the game yesterday. He said it in his pre-match interview. Oh, I know that Forest are going to play these long balls out wide. They're going to give us the ball, and that's how they're going to play. We'll have plenty of possession. We didn't play like that. He misread the situation completely. But again, it shows he's not coming in to say, right, I'm a so-called Big Six team. This is the style I'm going to play. Forest will have to play around us. And that's the problem. And it's their identity as a club that is the biggest issue. They're a Big Six team in finance because they have Beyonce, because they have NFL, because they have go-karting. They're not a Big Six team on the pitch. That's my say.
Listen, I'm going to jump in on that in a minute. Griggs, what are you saying about this? Because Tottenham, as you say, as Wolfie said, they've got the stadium. The fan base have the arrogance at times. But do you think sacking Frank and getting a De Zerbi, sacking Frank and getting an Areola, a Grasner has been linked to them? Do you think they're gonna click? They're gonna just start to exponentially over the course of the next year get better and better, or do you still see there being lots of setbacks and trials and tribulations for them?
I think like Wolfie said, it's a little better fact than fiction. I think, can they do better than Thomas Frank? Absolutely. Like you mentioned, a couple managers who I think Wolfie made a nice point where Thomas Frank adjusts to the opposition, doesn't play his own kind of style, and I think that's been the biggest question mark with a lot of these mid-table coaches making that jump to the bigger clubs. It's a question you could also have about Olivier Glasner if he comes to Spurs. It could be Raul as well. All these managers, they do really well at the mid-table clubs, but it's a different level. Even we could troll Spurs, but they are a bigger club than these clubs, and the fans demand good football. And in the past, we always associated Spurs with that kind of brand of football. They've always played a nice brand of football, whether it was under what's called Redknapp, whether it was under Pochettino. They played nice attacking football. They always had the good attackers, whether it was Gareth Bale, whether it was Son, Kane, even when they had Modric in the midfield, Dembele in the midfield. They always had that nice brand of football. And obviously, when they made the UCL final, I think it made Daniel Levy think that, yeah, we could punch bigger. But Pochettino was their peak, and I think they need to go find a manager that was like Pochettino in the sense of where Pochettino played his brand of football. It was high press, high attacking football. They need to go back to that manager. I don't think Thomas Frank is that guy. I think Iraola maybe. I think because he plays a high press football at Bournemouth, I think they like to attack a lot. Obviously, we'll see in a couple hours what they do at Old Trafford, but I do think. But the squad is a big issue. I think there's a lot of imbalance. I think they have a lot of good players. Christian Romero, Van de Ven is a good center back partnership. Like most clubs will take those two at center back. I think the midfield is a question. I think they don't have there, and the forward, the attack, they don't have that guy up top that they can depend on. All the Big Six clubs, I think, have that attacker up top that they can go to depend on, except Spurs. You can't really depend on any striker. You don't have Heung-min Son anymore, who left, so they don't have that attacker, and they didn't go get that attacker in the summer to build off that Europa League win. So I think the squad's an issue, but I do think Thomas Frank, I like the guy. I think he was good at Brentford, but the Big Six is not meant for him. It's not meant for his type of like football. I think the mid-table clubs, he could get like Brentford, the money ball, that kind of stuff. He could get them high. He could get them to top 10, stuff like that. But that next step is a big step, and not many managers can make that step. There's a very select few. But as we see in football today, these sporting directors think that there's a lot of managers that could do it. But as we've seen from the likes of Chelsea, we've seen at United, it's a big step. Whether they're coming from the Premier League or whether they're coming from the other clubs in Europe, it's a big step, and I don't think Thomas Frank is the guy for that.
It reminds me of Graham Potter in terms of the pathway with the Chelsea stuff as well. I know it's not the exact same science, but there's a lot of that in there. And at least with Chelsea can attract these players. Spurs can't. Spurs, I feel, always get the crumbs that are left over from a Chelsea and Arsenal or whatever, but they still feel that they should be getting the main dish.
This is why I think both of you are being very, very harsh. You know, if they had gotten Mbumo, if they had got Eze, if Maddison wasn't injured, Kulusevski wasn't injured, this manager would have a lot more at his disposal, and we wouldn't be talking about him getting the sack. I think it's pretty harsh. Spurs have to aim to be in that top six. You know, if any team trying to break that barrier had lost a Kane, had a Son come to the end of their career, they'd all suffer. They'd all suffer. It's very difficult to replace these players. You watch when Liverpool finally lose Salah and Van Dijk, it's going to be very difficult to replace them, and that's Liverpool. And Tottenham are trying. They're trying their best. And I've had this conversation here before, and people are like, oh, you got your Spurs hat on. I feel sorry for them a little bit, to be honest. They try their best to get the best players, and the food chain always gets them. Arsenal comes in and takes it. Man United comes in and takes their players. What can these guys do? What can they do?
Yeah, but
I
they
think it's
can't
very
even take
difficult.
players from Forest. They tried to take Gibbs
Well,
White.
that was
and he
different.
rejected them.
Your owner's involved with a mafia or something, mate. Because I've never seen anything like that. That's. I hear your example there, but that's a very different example. I've never seen an owner hold this player in front of a microphone and say, "You're not going
They
anywhere."
have a good
Basically,
relationship, bro. What can I say?
listen, it was fantastic. I rate your owner for doing it. The point is, Spurs do try and break through, but they find it difficult. As for the manager. You're right. Michael's made a point. I made this point a few weeks ago. How many success stories has there been where a manager comes from a lower club to a higher expectation club and does well? The only one maybe is Eddie Howe. And even then he's being questioned a little bit, isn't he? So you're right. I mean, I'm looking at it now. I don't think you should have sacked Nuno Espirito Santo. No way. The guy's fantastic. He didn't get enough time at all. I think that's where you've gone wrong.
But see, I agree and I disagree with points that everybody's made. I think there's a little bit of fact and a little bit of fiction. I like Thomas Frank. I thought he'd do a very good job at Tottenham. The issue is they have a dysphoria. They don't know what they are as a football club. There is section of the fans, board, and I think the dressing room that looks at the stadium, looks at the finances, listens to the media and says, we're Big Six. We're super rich. We should play like PSG. We should play like Barcelona. We're one of the big boys. So being asked to do the grunty, hard stuff, the boring work, it isn't going to work out for them. But I also think if they play more expansively, they don't have the bank balance to cash those checks either. They're going to bounce those checks because you then expose the defensive line and the midfield a little bit more when you're more expansive. I think they're between a rock and a hard place. I really do. So the fact part is I don't think sacking Thomas Frank fixes Tottenham, but I think going after a manager that plays maybe not as gun-ho as Big Ange, but someone like a De Zerbi, I actually think the vast majority of Spurs fans, if I'm being honest with you, if they could change their bird emblem, they should be the Magpies. Because I think if you give them something a little bit shiny, they'll be very, very happy with it. If Spurs just play, I know a lot of Tottenham fans. My dad's one. If their football is pretty, they're okay. Happy. They're genuinely okay. What would make them a little bit happier is if they were just one place above Arsenal in the league. If they have pretty football and they're above Arsenal in the league, 85% of the Tottenham fan base is content. They are like that 55-year-old man, full belly, slippers on, pipe in hand. Football's pretty. Arsenal ain't doing great. But they'll take the pretty football. So I think what they need to do, I don't know if they'll fix themselves, but go get a manager that plays pretty football that they can get excited about. They'll have a few players they can say are as good as anybody in the world. And honestly, I think Tottenham fans will sit there as a general group and go, thank you, yes sir, no sir, free bags full sir.
Isn't that pathetic?
So Man United.
Isn't it though? Like when you actually objectively look at what you said, and I can't disagree with it. That is a pathetic fan base. Let's just finish one place ahead of Arsenal, win nothing, but let's look pretty.
I'm not sure it is that, because even when they looked pretty, they were still demanding trophies, weren't they? They still wanted to win something, guys.
They sacked the manager that got them a trophy, bro.
When Kane and Son were in their prime, the fans, they still wanted silverware, and that's what Ange gave them, right? In the end.
Yeah, they would like. Sorry, David. I think this is a Spurs. This is your not all Spurs fans. So, for instance, Expressions isn't like this. He wants real trophies. A lot of the Spurs fans I know, I'd love a trophy, but if the football's pretty, they're okay. The football being pretty, I think Spurs fans also enjoy just being praised for being there. So
this manager's just arrived there. This manager's just arrived there, Terry. Yeah. This team finished 17th last year.
Yeah.
The patience you had with Amorim, or have with Amorim, for finishing 15th, apparently if he gets top 10 this year, he's fine. He's done excellent. Frank's just got there. He didn't have the free hit that our manager had last season. You got to give the fella a bit of time. I know it's not you, but in general for the question,
But this is the thing. It's the style of football. I think if Spurs fans put their hand on their heart and they're honest and they just speak truthfully, if they were where they were in the league, but the football was scintillating, but they just didn't have the players to deliver it, they'd be okay. They'd go,
Yeah,
well,
can I ask you this?
we'll
Can
be
I
all
ask
right.
you
The
this?
style of football is so important to Tottenham fans.
Can I ask everyone this? If Maddison and Kulusevski were available, you don't think their football, along with Xavi Simons, Kudos, all of these guys fit, would be better?
No, they finished 17th with those players available last season. Here's the thing. Terry is literally on the money, because I will tell you this, when you speak to Spurs fans, and unfortunately I have to speak to a lot of them, when you say to them, what do you want to go back to? What makes you smile? None of them will say winning the trophy last year. They all say losing in the final to Liverpool in the Champions League because we were there. That's where their highlight is. And I know they won stuff in yesteryear before any of us had TVs and what have you, or the TV was invented. But that's
TV,
the thing that
black and white.
Black and white, yeah, exactly. But that tells you their mentality. They're happy to be a talked about loser.
But Wolf, you've just said they need to check their expectations. You just said they need to check their mentality. You've just said they need to rein it in, and now you're saying they're happy with being losers. Like, what do you want their fan base to do?
Yeah, but this is it. They're mixture of
to be honest.
They're this weird mixture. And I remember I used to work in an office back in the banking days, and there was 3 Spurs fans. I'm not going to say any of their names, but big up boys if you're watching. And and I remember they lost Bale. Bale went to Real Madrid, and then Andros Townsend was given an opportunity. And Andros Townsend did look good in his first handful of games. And this was the office. Oh, do you see that our new lad, Andros Townsend? Yeah, looks decent. Oh, bow. Another bow straight away. Another bow. But that's my whole life has been that. Every single and but they have had some brilliant players, Berbatovs and Michael Carrick's, of course, Harry. They've had a lot of good players that have gone through their team. But it's almost so that in one breath they do this over-egging, too high standards, everything's amazing, but they don't like the expectation that comes with that. They sort of like to go under the radar a little bit, and I told you there's a dysphoria there. And I just honestly think if you got Spurs fans in a room, nobody would see the answer. You know, it's not like the Squid Game where they vote yes or no and everybody sees it. They'll all pick the right answer for socials. If you get them to be honest and just said, look, the next 10 years, you'll finish inside the top 8. You'll be one of the best footballing teams in the country, but no guarantee of winning anything. They'd go, yep. You'd get an 85% majority. Go, yep, take that. Trust me.
I hear you.
I think it's in the 90s, mate.
I have a question about
okay. Sorry,
this
Griggs.
This comment that you pulled up, football is all about winning. If you could do it while it's looking pretty, then great. If not, who cares? You have a trophy. In club football, because I'm gonna take international football out of this. In club football, how many teams win without looking pretty? You have to play good football to win. Whether it's especially consistently. Maybe obviously like they won the Europa League last year while not looking pretty, but consistent winning, you have to look pretty. United look pretty.
I think
Chelsea team look pretty.
Yeah,
Mourinho,
no. That, but
peak Mourinho football was the best counterattacking football
I agree.
ever seen.
I agree.
That's pretty football. That Inter team, the way they counter.
That's not what you define as pretty football. I get you in what he does.
Yeah, this is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
What's pretty, right? Everyone's got a different style of pretty. You know what I mean? Some people love the fact that a team scores a goal, parks the bus, and looks like the best defensive team in the world. Some people would, at some points, call that, the sweet science of football. You know what I mean? So what's pretty? The point is, guys, to back Spurs one final time, right? If you lost a Harry Kane, it's very difficult as Spurs to replace a Harry Kane.
You are right in that, but that's also an element of assessing the way they really are as a club, because Harry Kane is an anomaly in the sense of that most clubs can't replace a Harry Kane.
But wouldn't you agree, before you move on?
Go on.
Wouldn't you agree that Liverpool have got a better chance at replacing a Harry Kane, a Salah, than Tottenham has? Do you see what I mean?
They have a better chance, but the reason why it's almost impossible is these players are so rare. So if you, for instance, look at Erling Haaland, what is the likelihood that the day he leaves City, they sign a striker who comes in scoring at the same rate, considering he's scoring at a rate that's never been done in English football, like post-World War II. So one day Haaland will be gone, and that will make City slow down, irrespective of who else they buy and who their manager is, because it's an ungodly level. And Harry Kane was scoring at an ungodly level for Tottenham. So there was always going to be a drop-off after that. However, Solanke is a replacement.
Yeah, I get it.
The golfing class is ginormous, but
The point I'm trying to make is if City do lose Haaland one day, they should have, I mean, Pep plays a big part in that in attracting players, right? But they should have the money and be able to get best in class. Tottenham try and do that. They try and do that. And we've seen examples of that this summer. And they're just not successful because other teams in the food chain come and grab what they want. That's all I'm
So
saying.
why are we classing them as a
for
big
them.
six team then? Because I could see, we've seen Man City and Liverpool compete in the summer. We've seen Man United compete. Well, Man United, by the way, without European football, we got him ahead of the likes of Spurs. So why is there this big six thing around Spurs when they can't attract any of the players when their heads up against any other?
I think it was because of that bracket of Gareth Bale, Kane, Son, Modric, all these top Berbatov, all these top talents that they identified that pushed them into that conversation, and rightfully so, because all these players were world class, right? But they're struggling to find those players now. And it hasn't materialized.
Within those players you've just mentioned, some of those have shipped to Manchester United. You had Berbatov going, you had Sheringham going, and things like that. So even within the problem is Spurs are in this twilight zone. They're not a big six team, and they have more money than the other 14 teams. That's their problem right now, and their fan base is a mess.
No, I agree. And just on the update from Sammy McBell, what Sammy has come out and said today is that Tottenham head coach Thomas Frank is facing internal doubts, but sources insist there'll be no knee-jerk reaction to the loss at Nottingham Forest. But that is normally the beginning of the end when you start hearing the internal doubt words. But there's no knee-jerk reaction. That means there's going to be a reaction soon, doesn't it? And everything else. Moving on, the next fiction or fact question, obviously a big game that's on tonight, Man United versus Bournemouth. The last two times they've played at Old Trafford, 3-0 to Bournemouth each time, just for full disclosure. But, Griggs, there's talk today that United may play now or very soon in a 4-3-3. And this here says fact or fiction. If Ruben Amorim switches to a 4-3-3, it's a clear sign of weakness, not tactical flexibility from the manager.
Fact. I think this guy wants to play a 4-3-3 just to lose with it and then tell me in the press conference, oh, you see, I finally played your beloved 4-3-3 and I lost. So let me go back to the 3-4-3. That's exactly what's going to happen. That's exactly what this guy going to say. Honestly, this guy can play 4-3-3, 4-4-2, 4-4-1-1, 3-5-2, 3-4-3, 3-4-2-1, whatever formation he wants to play. I just don't rate him as a tactician. It's as simple as. Because he is right in terms of he says the formation doesn't matter. I agree with that. It's about how you implement the formation in possession, out of possession. And in possession, we're not good because we do a 3-1-6. And then out of possession, we don't want to defend in a 4-4-2 or with 3 men in, or at least with the 3 men in midfield. Or the 2 men in midfield. We don't defend well out of possession. When Mason Mount, it looks a little bit better because he's the best presser at the club and he's well tactically nous, as they say. Like he's a really good tactically, which he got at Cobham for Chelsea. I'll give them the credit for that, to be honest. But it doesn't matter to me because now you want to play a 4-3-3, right? Well, guess what? Your 2 best wingers are leaving to AFCON in a couple of days. So now you want to play the 4-3-3. Alma's leaving and Buemo's leaving. Who am I going to see at right wing? Patrick Dorgu? Because you're not going to play Shea Lacey. You know why? Because you just launched an attack against Carrington 48 hours ago. Because you basically called every youth player at the football club shit. Harry Amos won Player of the Month at Sheffield Wednesday for this past month, by the way. He's shit. Because their fans love him over there in Sheffield. Cheeto, yeah, okay, maybe strong on under 21s. But why are you lighting fire to a wound? Why are you lighting fire to a subject that doesn't need to have a fire lit on? What have these kids? These kids are just developing. Daniel Gore is doing good in League One. Ethan Ennis is doing good in League One. Harry Amos is doing good in the Championship. I don't understand what this guy what is he trying to do? Because when his introduction press conference happened, he said this specific thing. He said, I'd rather jump in front of the bus and throw my players under it. That's what he said. So he's a liar. And I don't like liars. And this guy is a pathological liar consistently in his press conferences. He has never once said anything true other than that he's an emotional man. That's the only truth that he's ever said about himself, is that he's an emotional man. Other than that, it's a bunch of lies. Kobe, I keep talking about Kobe Mainoo, but for me, Kobe Mainoo is not the issue isn't specifically Kobe Mainoo. Kobe Mainoo is a symbolism of what's going on there. Not just Amorim in specific. I'm not even going to blame him for this. It's INEOS. Because it's not Amorim that's only criticized the academy. A month ago, Sir Jim came out and said the academy is shit. The standards of the academy have dropped. In my opinion, I think this is the best state Carrington has been since a long, long time. Maybe since Ravel Morrison and Paul Pogba were coming out. Because if you look across what Carrington's doing, you have Marcus Rashford, who's had 210 GA for the football club and is now at Barcelona, probably going to win the league title this year. Scott McTominay is a god in Naples. They're ready to build a statue next to Maradona after he won the league title last year. Kobe Mainu was starting in the European final about 18 months ago and was third in the Copa Trophy. Should have been second, but Turkey launched a little propaganda for Arda Güler. That is Carrington. We're not going to talk about the guy in Marseille, obviously, but there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of stuff in Carrington that, and also academy football is not about who plays for Manchester United, right? It's about what they do at other football clubs. That's a success story. And United across all the Premier League have a lot of players across the Premier League playing for other football clubs. Sam Johnson not included after what he did on Saturday. We're not claiming him, but there's a lot of players doing good stuff across the Premier League for Carrington, and that is what Carrington. But Sir Jim wants to talk about all the academy shit, and then let me not even talk about what I think about Jason Wilcox and Omar Barado, who I think are secret agents sent by Manchester City to infiltrate this football club, because they're gonna treat Carrington as what Man City is, right? Because at Man City, bar Phil Foden, how many great talents from Man City have actually broken into the first team and stayed there? Cole Palmer left to Chelsea. You have Frimpong, you have Jadon Sancho, you have Morgan Rogers at Villa now. Those guys are they're viewed as like assets. But at Carrington, maybe obviously I don't know if you guys live in England, so you're obviously more well tuned with this. But at Carrington, the best of Carrington always has a large part of their career at Manchester United. They don't leave until about 7-8 years of their career. They play at United first and foremost. Yet Kobe Mainu is about to leave in about 6 months' time to go play at big clubs outside the country when he should be a first tier at Manchester United, and he should be viewed as an asset that should play for the next 10 years at Man United. Instead, he's gonna go to Napoli and win a Serie A there. He might go to Bayern Munich and have a dynasty with Bayern Munich. And who are we gonna have here? We're gonna have Manuel Ugarte stinking up the pitch and doing shin kicking duties all over the pitch. That's what Amorim, that's what INEOS have created at Manchester United. They have created this. They view every single player as an asset, but the identity. I had a video about a couple weeks ago where I talked about the identity of Manchester United. Courage, youth, success. There is no courage at the football club right now. It's a bunch of cowards. There is definitely no success. We just finished 15th in the Premier League, and there's no youth. The academy record is hanging on a fringe, but by two players that just there to sit numbers. Shea Lacey should have came out last week against Wolves. We were up 4-1. What is bringing on Shea Lacey going to do any damage to the scoreline? No, it's not. Just have him play. Because guess what? You're going to need him now because Mbuemo's going to AFCON and Ahmad's going to AFCON. So who are you going to play on that right side of the pitch? Because you view Mainu as a pivot player. You don't want to bring him up because you don't want to play Kobe Mainu in the pivot. Because this guy keeps talking about, Bruno and Mainu can't play together. Guess what? Every single time Mainu's come on the pitch in the past month, he's playing next to Bruno Fernandes because Casemiro was a substitute. So you're lying again. Lying. It's a lie. He's Pinocchio. The nose is growing. That's what he is.
Michael, man.
So he can talk about 4-3-3. I don't care what formation he plays. At the end of the day, he's a shit manager. He needs to get fired soon, but he's not going to do it because what I say, courage, there's no courage at Man United. It's a bunch of cowards, and it starts at the top. It doesn't start with Amorim. It starts at the top with Sir Jim, with Barado, with Wilcox, and of course the elephant in the room, the Glazers. Because you know what? 10 years ago, they would have sacked him. Ed Woodward would have given him his P45, or I don't know what you guys call it. I think it's P45. That's what they would have handed him. P45. He would have been gone because Asphalt Van Gaal sacked after winning the FA Cup. This guy lost it. This guy gave Spurs their first ever glory for most of their lifetime. That's what he did last year. So yeah.
I don't fully disagree with what you're saying, Michael. But if you're using Paul Pogba, Ravel Morrison, Rashford as examples of what Carrington has produced, I think that says it all. He's half right. Carrington has produced absolutely average players for a long, long time. The last time we produced elite players, and I've had this debate today, is before we were at Carrington and we were at the Cliff, the class of 92 and anything pre that. But since we moved to Carrington, and this could be for many reasons, we haven't really produced anything elite ever again. We haven't. And I don't agree with what Amorim said. And I know that's not the question, Terry, sorry, but I'll just quickly touch base on that. You shouldn't be calling out youth players. But what Amorim was trying to say is, I used some of these players last year and you were still calling for me to be sacked. Now I'm not using them. You're calling for me to be sacked. So he's trying to make the point that he can't win whatever he does, right? And his honesty, we had this conversation before, and I think you were on the panel, Mike. It was a match reaction. Amorim's honesty is what's kept him in the job. But sometimes his honesty can go a bit too far. But I half agree with him. Chido Obi, if he was that good with Arsenal, would let him go. Mainu, everyone screams Mainu, and I see his potential. But guys, Ten Hag was playing him a lot and he still lost his job. It's not all on Mainu, but there isn't a line of teams queuing up to come and sign him, is there?
There's 18. There's actually 18 football clubs that want to sign him.
I can't wait. Let's see who they are. Let's see how much we get for him. All I'm saying is he doesn't pull up trees for me. And listen, if the manager doesn't fancy him, he doesn't fancy him. That's it. I mean, the other example, Amas, he shouldn't have done that. He's at Sheffield Wednesday, whatever. You don't need to bring him up. I don't agree with what he said, but he's half right. And listen, previous managers before Amorim, they all used academy players. Did it get us to the title? Did it get us close to where Fergie had us? No.
I don't care. What Fergie did is great.
No,
Let's never get it repeated.
What are we trying to get back to, Michael? What are we trying to get back to?
Honestly, right now, I'm trying to get back to competing because we're not competing. That's what I'm trying to get back to.
Ultimately, are we not trying? Look, if he wins tonight, I know we're going off subject here. Sorry, Terry. If he wins tonight, guys, he's 5th place. Right?
Yeah, okay.
He's 5th place.
He's 50
no, but hold on, Michael. I don't like this guy either, but he's 5th place tonight. And compared to last year, that's a massive improvement, right? And if it continues in that trajectory, I doubt that it will, but I'm just playing devil's advocate here. If it continues in that trajectory, mate, back the man. It's heading in the right direction. If he thinks the youth is shit, I don't half blame him. Managers before him were using academy players. They weren't getting us very far. So, look, feathers need to be ruffled. Something needs to change at Man United because we've been using academy players. All previous managers, you've seen the list, Terry. I sent it in the chat today or resent it because Staffy sent it. We had a back and forth. Something needs to change. And I know this is our history. And I know it's 80 plus years with using youth. I don't agree with not using youth, but our academy hasn't produced anything. What are we going to use as an example? Garnacho, 40 million.
Well, last I checked, if an academy player produces 210 GA for you, I think that's pretty great because I think everyone here on this panel would have taken Marcus Rashford have that production from the...
Yeah, look, this is the thing, right? I just want to say very quickly on this as it's United point. I agree that not every academy player is going to be good enough to even be in our squad. But I think not giving Shea Lacey the opportunity in a game that we needed to score a goal in, and you bring on a centre-back instead, will infuriate Man United fans. That all being said, though, the attack today, and it was an attack, Amat is doing quite well in the Championship. Chido Obi, listen, he's going through a little bit of a tough time at the minute, and this happens to a lot of young players. You can be 17 and the best striker in the country. You can turn 19 and no professional club wants to buy you. Development of football players goes like that. My cousin, who played at a decent level, at youth academy level at Bayern Munich, was one of their best players. He still holds goal scoring records there now. Ended up playing the highest he ever got to in England was League One. Different development at different stages. These are things that happen. But for me, yes, I want Man United to get back to winning ways. But there's an identity element here that I don't want to lose. If someone said to me now, you guarantee you're Premier League champions next year, but there isn't a single academy player, there's no youth in your team, it's just all bought and paid for, or you can develop a brilliant team over the next 4 or 5 years that will include that may be able to win a league title as well.
So you would take the league?
I'm taking the risk of not winning the league, but to have it connected to the origins of my football club. Because for me, the culture of my football club, one of the reasons that I'm a Man United fan, one of the reasons so many people outside of Manchester support Man United is because of the Busby Babes and not the Munich air disaster. Let's just park that for a moment. There's a song that we sing about get yourself to that football ground where you'll fall in love with football. It talks about you're going to fall in love with football because you're going to see football that's taught by Matt Busby. Man United were harvesting fans from across the country and the continent. We were doing tours around the world in the 50s before clubs even knew what the word tour meant, because we played a brand of football and we used our academy players to deliver that football, and it was unique. And Man United had a 50,000 strong London supporters club back in the 50s. People think it's a Premier League era. They're wrong. They don't know the club's history. People fell in love with this brand of football, these young players that were developed. Some of them were taken from other parts of the country. For instance, Sir Bobby Charlton is not from Manchester. The late, great Sir Duncan Edwards was obviously from the Midlands. They weren't from Manchester, obviously the Northeast for Sir Bobby Charlton. But it is part of the fabric and tapestry of our football club. And I don't want to move away from that. I don't mind where our owners are from around the world. I don't care about that. But you must adopt the United way and the United way of operating. What we need is for the club to be run better with the best possible coaches. Yes, you buy players as well. We've always bought fantastic football players throughout our history, but it's intertwined in the two things. If we don't operate that way, we're not Manchester United. We're not our club anymore. I don't want to win in an identity that is not the football club. I don't, because it's not
Terry,
about just winning trophies. It's
at.
about being who you are. And at the end of the day,
that.
So for me, I don't like the way that the academy is being disrespected. I want more money being pumped into it. And at the right times, you give these players a chance. Shea Lacey should have played recently. Attacking the youngsters is wrong. What Mainoo's going through is absolutely ridiculous. And when it comes to players in recent years that have come through our academy, I look at it this way. Yes, that the class of 92 was an element of fortune that so many of that level
it's once in a lifetime. It's once in a lifetime.
It's once in a lifetime. But they also came into a club in the mid-90s. I'm actually talking about it on the show I'm doing tomorrow. Had those boys who graduated 10 years earlier, when United was broken, would they have all made it to the same level?
This
Maybe
is
not.
The point, though, Terry.
We've had Marcus Rashford's. Okay, look at Scott McTominay's done once he's got away from the toxicity of the football club. His development and his footballing fundamentals that Carrington helped develop. You've seen it come to light where he's been in Ballon d'Or nominations and Player of the Season in Serie A. A player that Fergie consistently said, I know he was retired and having a few red wines, saying you've got to build a team around this guy. Mason Greenwood not being in our team has nothing to do with his footballing ability. He's an absolutely stellar talent as an example. Mainoo is another. Listen, Garnacho didn't work out for us. Again, a player that, again, this is where we've got to get the balance right. Rushed into too much first-team football a little bit too early in his career. There are other players in recent years like Jesse Lingard who had solid Premier League careers. You said Johnny Evans who's retired. Not for you guys. Good for us. And for me, the idea that we're not producing talent, I think is ridiculous. We are not nurturing talent properly at our football club, and we kill it before it starts. And for me, what Ruben Amorim has come out and said today, I find it despicable on every level.
Oh, mate. Terry, listen. You saying that you'd rather potentially not win a league, but stick by our history.
Yes.
I don't understand it, because I'm in the camp of, I would rather win a Premier League and then go back to our history, go back to what we do best, build from there, go back to your traditions. But let's get back to winning ways. Let's get back to the top. Yeah.
Terry, you've been very romantic,
Terry. You want to talk about winning? You want to talk about winning ways? 18 months ago, when we beat City in the Cup final, who were the goal scorers?
Oh, mate,
Alejandro Garnacho.
Michael, it was a great day, and I'm very thankful to Ten Hag for that.
The thing is, we don't need to make a choice here, though. It's not about being... there is a romance element to it, and it's an important part of football. At the end of the day, what our owners should be doing is investing in the best possible players for our team. I love the fact we bought in Bumo. I hope we go out and get Semenyo. I hope we go out and buy the very best that money can buy. But I want to couple that in with developing the youth players from our own academy. And for me, when Man United went, this is what people don't know our history. When Man United started to go wrong in the 70s and into the 80s, and it's the first thing Fergie addressed when he arrived as a new manager, is we'd forgotten about it and stopped developing and running the youth academy properly. Whenever that's running well at our football club, everything else seems to fall into place, because you've got to have your basics. You've got to have your foundation. And I don't care if fans of other football clubs don't think it's right, don't care about it, don't get the romance of it. It's what my football club's tapestry is interwoven with, and I don't want us to move away from it. I don't want us to disrespect it, and I think it should be of paramount importance to us, because it is the lifeblood and the heartbeat of this institution that we love called Man United, and I don't want it disrespected.
Why is it so binary? That would be my question.
But it isn't binary. But it isn't binary. It's,
Yeah, exactly.
it's a combination of the two. I don't want to leave our history behind and not try and repeat elements of it and keep the academy going. But I'm also not saying develop a team of a squad of 23 players just from the academy. There is a balance here. But my point is disrespecting it. And when we've had opportunities to give academy players a chance, the way they've been spoken about, lied about, and mistreated, I won't accept that.
But Terry,
Do you think the academy players
can I
would have
ask
got
you-
more of a chance if you were in European football this season?
Yeah,
There's more
most
games
likely.
to play them in.
Yeah.
There's more games to play them in.
Whose fault is it that we're not in European
Of
football?
course, it's not just him and the players. I'm not being funny. That Spurs team, the players were good enough to show up and beat them that day. Jesus. So I'm not here to backhammer him. I don't think he's been great for us at all. But I'm definitely in the camp of we've been in this merry-go-round of managers, of philosophies, of systems for how long now? I will give anything to win the Premier League again. And if that means no academy players in the team, so be it. And once we win it, once we get back, listen, from there, we can go back to our roots and get academy players again.
Do you want to know why that's never going to happen, though? Do you want to know why it's almost to a degree nonsense? You're not even allowed to have a squad that doesn't have homegrown talent in it anyway, right? So this is the problem. Do you want to know why we fail? Because we don't take care of our academy. 4 managers running. Okay, the way our academy plays football, where they're trained from 8 years old till they're adults, doesn't play the same way the first team fucking plays.
We
are running our club backwards to how all the other top clubs who have a youth development system tend to operate. The clubs that win, Barca don't behave like that. You know what I mean? Bayern Munich don't behave like that, and vice versa. We do. You know, at the end of the day, you can't even do what you're asking for. You can buy a 23-man squad, but then you're going to end up buying youth players from other people's clubs. You're never going to have a 23-man squad that's full of world-class players anyway, from top to bottom, because why is a world-class player going to be number 23 in the squad? It isn't going to happen. What you have to need at a club are those players that have come through your ranks that are very happy to be fringe players because they're part of the club's lifeblood. They're happy to be there. You need your Nicky Butts. You need your Phil Nevilles, who won't become disgruntled and force moves in the same way. Buying a star. Why are they done? I'm
not going to go deep here. I'm not going to go deep here or sound like an old man. But the youth is just not the same. You know, they don't have, in my opinion, this is not all the youth, Jesus, but they don't have that mentality of, all I want is to play football. All I want is to focus on Man United. There's just too many distractions now. So to have youth players as your...
By the way, that's false. That's false, by the way, because Enrique plays about 8 youth players a week. That's false.
Yeah, and by the way, PSG reached their highest levels domestically and internationally the second they went to this policy of bringing through the best and most creative and high-talented French players possible. As soon as they dropped their Galactico approach, bang, top level, straight away.
Vitinha, João Neves, Mendes, Gonzalo Ramos, these are all their youth academies.
No. To see this is, but now you're doing now you're doing the exact binary thing we're talking about. I didn't say we shouldn't buy the best players in the world. I advocated for it. Combination of the two.
all I'm asking for is the best of Carrington to play for Manchester United and not to play for Napoli Football Club. That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah.
Hold on. When you say that, the Man United fans were the ones hounding out McTominay from that club.
But they're the same ones. They're
exactly,
the way. Yeah, but these individuals, right? I felt we had to go in the end because what happens at the end, right? Same with Rashford, is you are right. These players get hounded out.
8-year cycle. It's 8 years after. That's
yeah. It's so much later down the line. If we hadn't been a broken football club, these players would have thrived here a lot better. There's no doubt, like Rashford's situation, it come to an end. He had to go because there was a toxicity with him in the club and things like that happen. But a lot of those United fans also say that they're the same Man United fans who would pick Liverpool or City winning the league over Arsenal because I've got an Arsenal friend who's a fan. I don't look at those people. I don't look at those people. If you're one of them, you're one of them. If the cap fits, I don't look at those guys as diehard Man United fans. If they would pick Liverpool winning the league over Arsenal because their friends are Gooner. I put my club's history first.
Maybe I'm a lesser fan than you, Terry, but I didn't see you fighting for Rashford, for McTominay, for Garnacho to stay at the club because they were academy graduates. So I didn't see you. But now all of a sudden...
No. See, this is where you're going to misrepresent me. I felt that it came to a point where they had to go.
You just did.
Okay, came to a point where they had to go in terms of the cycle, but Ram's been on my channel for the better part of eight years. Ram, I'll tell you straight that I've backed those academy players through thick and through thin, my friend. This isn't a Johnny-come-lately thing for me, brother.
They weren't the Bob squad, were they? They weren't
Yeah,
the Bob
but
squad.
the whole thing is,
But the question
Terry,
is,
you're just quick point. You're showing the romantic side of the youth development system, where the real side of the youth development system is the amount of these kids that get cut and thrown out. That's
Agreed.
a huge problem in football. The amount of mental health illnesses these kids have because they've been promised the world, they're going to make this, and then they're just cut out. It could be over an injury. I know some of these that cut on injuries, never made it again in football, had to go and get themselves re-educated because they thought that was it, the fast cars, the women, the money, and what have you. It's such a small percentage that make it through these youth academies. And the bigger picture is way worse.
See, Wolfie, so where I agree with you completely, having had family members go through very similar things, is there being aftercare and football. I think football beyond just the clubs, the FA, FIFA, and far more for these players is absolutely right. But I think personally that's a separate conversation from me wanting to see the very best of Carrington integrated into our squad on a regular basis. I think there's two combinations are there. I will just say the logic, gatekeeping, Terry, is the worst. You mean like your comment of gatekeeping, telling me not to say things? You see how when you call out gatekeeping, you're gatekeeping. That's what I love. That's why I said it, just because I always get one of these comments. You shouldn't gatekeep. What in your comment that is gatekeeping? Think about it, brother.
Terry,
I love it. I love it.
The one pushback I've got for you, because I've been listening to the conversation, and I the thing is, as a Liverpool fan, I feel as though there's so many similarities to both United and Liverpool. That's for me why we hate each other so much, because if you put yourself in a mirror, you see a Liverpool fan, you see a United fan in the mirror. This is how I see it. But when we won our Premier League and Champions League, the majority of the Liverpool fans were thinking romantically, just like you, we would want a whole load of players from Melwood to come through and be a part of that core team. But unfortunately, this is where, like Wolfie said, reality has to come in, because if you look at that team that we only had one standout youth player. That was Trent Alexander-Arnold. And everyone in the whole academy knew he was going to be the very best of the best. So don't you think the whole idea of you want to keep aspects of Carrington, you want to have this, you want to have that, is just a little bit unrealistic on your part?
No, because you had Trent Alexander-Arnold, who I know you guys don't like him anymore, but the reason you don't like him is because he was from your club and from your academy. The reason you sat on here and grilled him and crucified him is because he is Liverpool through and through. So you're using it as a comeback. But there we go. Equally, other players have come through since then, like Harvey Elliott. You guys are desperate for young Rio to get game time.
Not our first ever Premier League win.
No, not your first ever Premier League team. But you still had academy players that were part of your squad, and you had an academy player at 18, 19 years old that you guys were calling the greatest left back of all time. And what you all said, you sat here and said it. We had James Redmond that come on and said it. You said with Trent doing this, it's even better. And I remember Redmond's words, because he went, Trent is me. He's from the same streets as me. It feels even better that he's doing it. So I remember hearing those same words from you Liverpool fans in that way. Thank you. Good night. God bless. Thanks for turning up.
Can I just say?
Right, yeah.
That's not what I'm saying, but
it's what you said.
But that's not what the whole point
Curtis
is.
Jones. Curtis, he's one of our own. Curtis.
Curtis Jones wasn't part of the Champions League winning team, Terry.
No, he was part of the last team that won the league, and you praise it up.
Unless you're gonna be one of the best of the best. If you guys are saying, I'm happy if you guys are gonna say it. If Kobe Minu is gonna be one of the best of the best, just like
no.
This is what I'm saying.
Hang on.
But you're twisting what's being said again. I haven't said that every Carrington player has to be in the first team and best of the best. I've said they've got to be part of the squad. They've got to be involved if they're good enough. Why get rid of a midfielder who's a good squad player, who's from your academy?
If they're good enough, that's what you just said.
Yes.
If they're good enough.
Yeah, but they've also got to be given opportunity. They've also got to be given opportunities as well, right? Because the one thing that Man City and Chelsea do very well with their academy is they give these players opportunities, and if they're not good enough, they sell them on for massive amount of money.
We don't do that either.
A club like Manchester United, who are in such dire straits financially, should be utilising their youth players a lot more. Like Terry said, bring through the best of your academy and give them opportunities. There's no saying that they're going to be good enough. Like Arsenal have got it at the moment. We've got Max Dowman and we've got Ethan Nwaneri that have come through. Neither of them at the moment, there's no guarantee that they're good enough for this Arsenal team to be in there long term. However, if we do end up having to sell these players on, I'm sure they'll go for a lot more money than what they would if they're just sitting in the youth squad. So
I agree.
You've got to utilise it.
You've hit onto a point that has a really big side point to it. And this whole problem revolves around 3 letters, PSR. The big issue right now, the reason why these players get sold is because they are 100% profit on PSR. So it works out for the clubs. If you look at Elliot Anderson as an example from Newcastle, they sold him to us for a net of 12.5 million. Pure profit to them. We gave him 35 mil, but there was another player, the keeper of Vlachodimos, that went with it. He's now worth 100 million. They had to sacrifice their future star because of PSR, because they had to balance the books. The way PSR is designed is to use these guys like they're, pieces on a monopoly board that you're buying and trading and selling with, rather than encouraging clubs to develop them through it. So if you're saying that what's happening at United is a problem, it's the rules that create the problem.
So do you know what, Wolfie, again, equally, if we were selling off some of this talent and getting 20, 30, 40 million on PSR.
You are, Terry. You are.
We ain't.
We sold McTominay.
You guys are going for the headline ones. Well, you sold Alanga to us. That was pure PSR profit. You sold Jimmy Garner to Everton. He came through your academy. McTominay.
Yeah, Jimmy Garner was a long time ago that he left Man United, weren't it?
It wasn't that long.
No.
Wasn't it? Maybe not. Maybe not.
2023.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, when we talk about
Michael Keane's
a long time. He was out. He was out on
Dean
loan.
Henderson. Dean Henderson went to Palace.
Yeah.
There's plenty. All of these are going. Why? Because you were getting 100% profit on it.
But that's an issue. That's an issue that, again, that's an issue that's outside of it. I still want to see these academy players put through. But viewers, look, we could go around in this for a long time, and we've got some other points to get onto. But please hit that like button. Please make sure you're subscribing to the Football Terrace, and make sure you have that bell notification button turned on as well if you haven't done so already. Next question. And I'm going to throw this one to Wolfie to begin with, and then we're going to go to Brandon on it. Welcome, Brandon and Ram to the show. But fact or fiction? The big blue shark is coming for Arsenal. They'll crumble under the pressure again, and the Wolves game proved it.
100% fact. I think we sat here a couple of weeks ago, Terry, when I said that Arsenal will crack, that Man City will close them down. Everyone was like, no, the title's done. It's Arsenal's, they're X points ahead. And I was like, just as long as a Man City within striking distance of single digits to Arsenal, I think they can catch them. And we've seen the cracks. That Wolves performance from Arsenal was absolutely horrific and shambolic. I know they got the 3 points. You could make the argument that maybe 2 years ago they end up with a draw there and drop 2 points, and they showed a little bit to get all 3 points. But they just keep giving buying signals to Man City to say that we are still, available to bottle this. And that's the problem. You don't give those signals to Pep. They're now down to 2 points. This title is now in Man City's hands as well as Arsenal. Because I know it's a long way off, but, mathematically speaking, if Man City win all their games, they win the league. That's what Arsenal have done by reducing these points they had. So I think Man City are fully in this. I make them favourites, more favourites than I made them a couple of weeks ago when we did discuss it. Pep has never gone 2 years without winning it. So he's not going to want that record to change. And the signs are just showing in Arsenal a little bit. Key games where they could make statements, where when Man City were playing Liverpool, they drew with Sunderland. Instead of thinking, I'm not blaming that on Arteta specifically, but I'm just saying those statement moments, they're just not happening for me with Arsenal. So I think Man City are favourites. I think Arsenal can still win it. I'm not writing Arsenal off. But once we get into the second half of the season, we've seen this story so many times in recent years. And I fully expect Man City to go ahead and win. I actually wouldn't be surprised if over the next few games they actually overtake them. And if Man City go in front and Arsenal have to chase, this may be over sooner than a lot of us think.
Brandon, by the way, before we go to Brandon, it's just been announced that Shea Lacey has been removed from the squad and replaced by Sesko for today's game.
Yeah.
So just but fair enough.
Yeah, well,
Just so everyone knows, one less attacking player on the bench. We've got bench now. Brandon, what do you make of this? A lot of people are talking about Arsenal bottling this. I wouldn't say that's what Wolfie said. He's saying City. He's been saying City are the favourites for a while. How do you see it? Do you think the big blue shark is circling? Do you think Arsenal will rise to the occasion and maintain that? They've got a 2-point advantage. That if you look at points per game, they're tracking to finish 5 points ahead. But do you think there's going to be a swing in that, or do you think Arsenal can maintain this and stay ahead of Manchester City?
I think it's too difficult to call at the moment, because we're entering that period now where there's a fixture congestion. The games are coming so quick and fast. I think you'll see, a few drop points from potentially both sides. And I know that Manchester City have got some tough run of fixtures, definitely towards the end of January, beginning of February. And the only thing that I'm sort of pinning my hope on at the moment is the fact that Arsenal have got a lot of their tough away fixtures out of the way in the first half of the season. And a lot of them teams now are going to have to come to the Emirates. Now, even though we performed awfully at the weekend against Wolves, we still maintain a 100% record at the Emirates this season, aside from a draw against Manchester City. We haven't lost a game at the Emirates. So the Emirates is a bit of a fortress for us. I'd like to think that these players and the manager are going to get it together, because the last 3 games in the Premier League haven't been good enough. We should have done more against the 10-man Chelsea. We really didn't turn up against Aston Villa, and we definitely didn't turn up at the weekend at all. And we need some of these players back. Obviously, Saliba's just come back. I think that will be a massive help on the back line. But yeah, we need these players to really realise now that they are in a title race. And like Wolfie said, we need to start making a bit more of a statement. We can't keep turning up in games that we're expected to win and just dropping really poor performances and getting away with it, really. So, yeah, it's a tough question, Tel. I'm not too sure where to go with it.
Can I ask a question?
The only thing that I would say with City is they have got players in that squad that have been there, done it, and won it, and have got the manager.
And the manager, which I think is fair. And I will say what Wolfie also said is right. I made Arsenal marginal favourites, and people pushed me for about 3 or 4 game weeks. Do you think we're the clear favourites? Do you think we're the clear? Anton, I'm talking about you if you're watching. And I said, no, it's marginal still. It's still that I got very annoyed at the beginning of this season with the mainstream media. I think some rivals did the whole "it's over, Arsenal must," so they could set up you bottled it. I've been in this game. I mean, I created half the wrinkles. I understood what they were doing, so I kind of brushed those guys aside. But is there an element of recency bias creeping in here, in the sense of Arsenal had a bad game against Wolves but got the win? It was only 2 match games ago that City threw away a 2-0 lead at home to Leeds and won it with a late goal. And they almost threw away a 5-1 lead against Fulham just 2 game weeks ago. They recently got beat at home by Leverkusen. Is there an element of recency bias also creeping here, where if, for instance, Arsenal win at the weekend 3-0 and City draw 1-1, will there be a shift in narrative again to say, league's over, no one can stop Arsenal now? Do you think there's a bit of that going on potentially, that every week there needs to be a sort of overarching statement made as opposed to just reviewing the games?
Again, that's a yes and a no answer, because even though City are conceding goals and they look like they're struggling to win games when they go behind, Erling Haaland just seems to be on fire at the moment.
Yeah.
And, I watched the game against Crystal Palace. Palace had a few chances early on against City, and I was thinking, maybe this could be the game. And then Haaland scores again. And he's just inevitable at the moment. Whereas in our side, I don't see anybody doing that for us at the moment, apart from maybe Trossard, who, you know, came on the pitch against Wolves and kind of changed the game a little bit. There isn't really another player that's sort of standing out in our attack where I'm saying, okay, if we go behind or if we play really poorly, this player can carry us out of it. I mean, there's Saka, but he seems to be coming up with more assists for other players and rather than, you know, doing the business himself and scoring the goals. So, yeah, it doesn't bode well with Gyokeres at the moment as well in the way that he's playing. I thought, you know, maybe Gyokeres would be a lot more settled in than what he is at the moment. But yeah, it's a difficult one, Tel, because I definitely think with Arsenal, we can defend and not a lot of teams will score goals against us. I know it has happened a little bit more recently, but obviously our back line has been missing. But it's the scoring goals that's the problem. Whereas the City have got the opposite. City can score goals for fun.
Yeah,
but
I hear
the defense ain't great.
Griggs, how do you see it, mate? Because do you think Arsenal? I mean, do you call it? Would you call it bottling the league from this point if Arsenal fell away? Do you see City hunting them down and overtaking them?
I think I would call it bottling most of the part that they're the team that has had the most continuity. Obviously, Liverpool had the 500 million window. They changed up the squad. City are kind of starting a new era. They've kind of let most of the old guard go. I think it's just really Bernardo Silva and like obviously Ruben Diaz, but it's a lot of new guys that are in the team. But Arsenal, it's basically the same squad, and you added a couple pieces. So I do think it's bottling. They've been the bridesmaid 3 years in a row, and it might be 4. I'm not going to count out a Pep's City side. Also, mostly for the fact that I think Brandon mentioned it's the X Factor players. City, it's not even just Holland on City. Phil Foden's back to basically full Foden, and Ryan Cherky is kind of getting adjusted to the Premier League. While at Arsenal, their main summer signing in the attack was Victor Gyokeres, and he looks like he's not adjusted to life at Arsenal. And Eberechi Eze, bar the hat trick against Spurs, which was obviously, let's be real, a revenge game. Like he played with the chip on his shoulder. Other than that game, he hasn't really pulled up trees. So it's a lack of X factor. Defensively, yes, they're the best team in the country, and even squad wise, you could argue they probably have the best squad. But at the end of the day, City have a robot up top that just scores every single game, no matter what. And you can argue he's the best player in the world right now. Phil Foden is getting, even if he's not the player this season level that he was 2 years ago, it's about 80% there. Ryan Cherky, Jeremy Doku's been one of the best wingers in the world, in the league, not even if the world this year. The midfield and defense is an issue at City, but they could just outscore everyone when they have the best attacking coach in the world. So at Arsenal, and also with Arsenal, it's this, right? It's the pressure. You haven't won yet. That pressure keeps eating and eating, and that's what the media feeds off of, because they can't give them benefit of the doubt because they haven't done it yet. So it's just doubt, and until they get over the line, that doubt's always going to be there. It's going to be within the media, within the players, within the coach. I'm sure Arteta's feeling a little bit of the pressure too, because he has to deliver something. Because Arsenal and UCL have been the best team in the UCL. They've been dominating. They just beat Bayern Munich, who 2 weeks ago we called the best team in the world. So, but in the Premier League, it's that thought of winning the league. And once you're top, you're not the hunt. You're the hunted. You're getting hunted, and you're getting hunted by a shark. I think it'd be easier if Arsenal were the ones hunting, but they're getting hunted for the whole.
So do you think if, say, over this festive period, just want to ask you on that point, Greg, do you think, for instance, if, say, City get 2 points ahead of them in the next couple of weeks, do you think them then chasing City would would maybe be a little bit easier for them than if they were 3 or 4 points ahead of them at that point?
I think it would really show what their mentality is made of. You drop the ball, right? Let's say City jumped ahead of you. Now, are you ready to hunt? Because amongst the hunting, you have to play City at the Etihad, right? And we were here 2 years ago when that same exact game happened, and Arteta parked the bus and was happy with the draw. This time round, you cannot approach the same mentality. You have to go for the win. That's why that game that they approached at Anfield, if there's going to be a game that lost in the league this year, I think it's that game at Anfield, because Liverpool have been open for business at Anfield, especially at that point where Slot wasn't really they were open for business. Everyone at Anfield went and got some business done. But Arteta approached the game wrong and went soft. Even the game against City at the Emirates, he didn't play his full attacking lineup. He tried to play soft. You cannot do that. That's why guys like Pep never bows down to the opposition, especially like when he's the best team in the league. He never bows down. They have to adjust for him. But Arteta made the mistake of he adjusted to his opponent instead of making the opponent adjust to him, and it's cost him twice. He can't let it happen a third time because City are clicking. And
I think there's also a few other key things for Arsenal. in particular. I think the January transfer window is going to be critical, maybe for both teams, because obviously with City conceding the goals that they are at the moment, they might want to correct that with, maybe bringing in another defender or a better defensive midfielder, maybe. But with us, the one position we desperately need is midfield, because when Declan Rice has been missing or he's not quite been on it, you can notice the difference, especially in the tempo. Declan Rice brings that energy to Arsenal's midfield. He didn't have it against Wolves. He didn't have it against Chelsea, and you could see the effect that it had on the whole team. And then also as well, Arteta has got to find a way of getting Victor Gyokeres into goal scoring positions, because we can't keep doing this.
I agree with that. Morris here says it's always hyperbole and hypothetical analyzing on Arsenal.
Analysis
on Arsenal. We are in a good place. Tough games out the way. Second half of the season, we'll hit peak form with easier fixtures. What would you make of that, Ram? Do you think people have been a little too harsh on Arsenal?
It's a weird one, because if you look at the game in isolation, it was a horrendous performance against Wolves. It was horrendous. I think, Terry, in the group chat, we were giving our thoughts on how poor both sets of sides were in terms of the build-up play and everything. But at the end of the day, we're at a point in December where games are coming thick and fast. At this point, just get the results. Get the results, and then when it comes to playing a game every 7 days or a game every 6 or 8 days, then you can focus on the performances. But for now, we're at the crunch. What was it? The crunch time, but the busiest period of football in the footballing calendar, and we all know that people in title race early on in the seasons drop off in the December period. We'll just have to wait and see what Arsenal do against the sides that they got in December. I know they've got the Carabao Cup as well. They got Champions League, even though that's more or less secured at this moment. So it's going to be an interesting watch, man. It's going to be an interesting watch. But
we've got some tough games in December as well, by the way. We've got Everton away next.
Exactly, man. Exactly. At the end of the day, if you're telling me that Arsenal win at Everton and it wasn't a great performance, I guarantee you all these Arsenal fans will be like, who cares? We never play well against Everton, especially away from home. It's just getting points on the board, man.
Well, have you seen Arsenal's next 6 games, David, are against sides which they only drew or lost against last year? So I'll get them up on the screen in just a second. But essentially, where have they gone? I had them this morning. Here we go. So I'll wait for them to load, and I'll put them up on the screen so the viewers can see. But when you look at the fixtures, you can see. Let me just remove that. Take that comment down as well. Last season, Everton away, Brighton at home, Aston Villa at home were all draws. Bournemouth away was a defeat. Liverpool at home was a draw, and Forest away was a draw. Arsenal are going to have to improve on all of those results from last season going into the next 6 games. Do you see them doing that, David? You've been a constant doubter of Arsenal this year. Do you feel like your view on them is now coming to fruition?
Well, what I'll start with is I'll be fair to Arsenal. If Liverpool had won that game against Wolves, or City had won that game against Wolves, or Chelsea, and they were going for a title charge, everyone would say what a champions win, whether it was ugly or not, right? So I'm going to be consistent there and say, when Wolves equalised, I was cheering my head off. The hate watch was real. But Arsenal went and did what they needed to do, and that was get the goal. I did not think they were capable of it. So that shows that they have improved. They're not the same team. They are a different kettle of fish. But what does make me laugh, and I will answer your question, Terry, is now you're asking us to look at the overall thing. Don't use recency bias when, all season you've been talking about how scary Arsenal is, what they're tracking towards. And all I've been saying is, let's use the bigger picture. History shows that Arsenal do get to a point where they get a little bit shaky. And right now, at the time when we were speaking, they were the best performing squad. They were the best performing team. But these things can change very, very quickly. So I've never used recency bias with Arsenal. I've always looked at the bigger picture. But to answer your question about those 6 fixtures, that shocked me. I didn't even realise that their next 6 fixtures, that's what... Are you saying that's last season when they played those teams? Those are the results?
So this is their next six Premier League fixtures in a row. but they didn't win a single one of these corresponding fixtures last year. So, I mean, this is about growth. And I mean, for me, I think this just as you say, listen, a lot of the tracking stuff we were talking about was more when we were comparing them to Chelsea, because Don still had another weird moment in the group chat this morning because I think the stats came out today that show that since Enzo Maresca became the manager of Chelsea, Arsenal only have 10 more league points than Chelsea. So he kind of came in the group chat again and did I told you, are you still saying there's a big gap? And I'm like, it's not about what I think or don't think. I'm like, he still doesn't understand that when he says they're this close to Arsenal, but the expectation between the two is big, there's a gap in the logic. It's you can't think, you can't think you're that close to somebody, but then think one must win the league and they're a failure if they don't win it, and the other one is just in a top 4 race. I don't see. And then he goes, so you don't think you think there's a big gap? But it's not my opinion, Don. I actually think you're not that far away. So you agree with me? No, I don't agree with you, because if you're not that far away, your expectations have got to be close.
Got to match it. It's got to match it.
Yeah, and that was more the tracking thing was more about that, because still, when it comes to what they're tracking towards, they're still tracking to finish 20 points ahead of Chelsea. City is a different level, because City have gone on a very, very good winning run and they're closing that gap. And for
we
me,
said we didn't see. We said we didn't see City. We said we didn't see City winning 10 in a row, and I kind of agreed with you on that. And now all of a sudden they seem to be flicking into third gear, and they've won 4 on the bounce. Is that right? I mean, I think is it 5 in a row?
It is 5.
I think it's very realistic.
Yeah.
I think it's very realistic that we may have been wrong on that, and City could win 10 in a row. And if that happens,
I don't think it's about you being wrong though, David, or me being wrong, anyone being wrong. When you're conceding the goals they were at home to Leeds, when you're 5-1 up and a ball was cleared off the line in the last minute to stop it going 5-5, there is nothing wrong in that moment of saying, I don't think City can win the league defending like this. There's nothing wrong in that statement. It's not incorrect.
Yeah, true.
What they've done since then, David, is they've improved their defensive display and they've become a better team. And, it's just one of those things. Like, they had to do it and they did do it.
What I will say, I think Arsenal are a much better prepared team to deal with those fixtures than they were last year. We all can admit to that. But the Wolves' performance, call it an anomaly. They haven't looked like that all year, have they? So let's call it a one-off performance. But I do see Gyokeres being a massive scapegoat if Arsenal don't perform over the next 5 to 6 games. It's all going to be blamed on Gyokeres. The pressure off of Arteta, it will come off of Arteta and be put on Gyokeres and Berta. You shouldn't have given him Gyokeres. He didn't want Gyokeres. It's your fault we didn't win the league. I feel like that's where it's going to go, right, over the next 5 to 6 games. But if City get ahead of Arsenal, I think it's going to be a difficult situation for Arsenal. They've got to stay strong.
You know what? Just on Gyokeres, because while you're on him, I want to say something about this. People are saying that it's a mistake to give Arteta Gyokeres because he's not the right profile of player that we would have, that he wants. But the problem is the profile of striker that Arteta wants to play with hasn't yielded anything. We haven't won anything playing with the striker that he wants to play. Yeah. He wants to play this false 9, and this false 9 doesn't score enough goals for us. Hence why Arsenal had 14 draws last season.
I think the argument against that, Brandon, sorry to cut you off. I think the argument against that, and Positive Dan says it to me all the time, when you had Havertz, you scored the most goals of any Arsenal team in history. Isn't that what he says? And listen, the facts are the facts. Whether Havertz scored them goals or not, he was part of creating those goals. He was part of creating that space. And let's all be real here. The reason you went for Gyokeres was because you needed a now signing, someone who's going to hit the ground running, and he hasn't. I feel a little bad for him because people are talking about service and he needs time.
Service though.
If I'm really honest about really ironic about the Gyokeres thing, Gyokeres was the striker that the Arteta out has backed.
That's it.
There's a great parody and jeopardy in that debate. Well, then I watched about 5 or 6 Arteta Outers match reviews this weekend because I wanted to see what they said, and they all said what I thought they said. Arteta's ruining Gyokeres. I was like, that's the easy line to go down.
But he is, to be fair.
He wasn't good enough, and we might have been wrong. Wolfie,
no. It's not that he's not good enough. Arteta needs to find a way of playing football with a natural striker. Like I said
That's
to you,
my point.
he keeps asking him to do this dropping deep, and it's just not his game. It's not his game. And there's a video, right, actually, on Twitter. I think Troops put it out, and there's a video of Odegaard winning the ball in the midfield.
I saw that.
Run in two different directions, and he doesn't play.
That video's been cropped. That video's been cropped like this, right? And it looks very obvious, but I'm not being funny. If you look at the video like this, maybe there's a reason he hasn't played that pass. Maybe the defender out of that cropped picture.
No. I agree with Brendan. I agree with Brendan. I think Arteta's got to do more work in training, and the players have got to be reprimanded for not playing.
When was the last time this team
to him earlier
has played with an out-and-out striker? This Arsenal team.
But the problem with that argument is that when before Man City bought Haaland, were they playing with an out-and-out 9? Or did Pep then adapt their system because he got a gunman up front? That's the difference between these two managers. That's the difference. Pep knows how to get the most out of his assets.
And all the people that have given up on Gyokeres, by the way, right? The reason why I haven't given up on Gyokeres yet is because Arteta told us that we had to give Kai Havertz 50 games before we could judge him. So I'm giving Gyokeres the same thing. 50 games, and then I'll judge him.
This is Arteta on Gyokeres. He goes, there was a lot of excitement because we were bringing in a proven scorer, but had probably the best stats in Europe. He is a player that comes to a different league. I think there are elements of that. There are things that Gyokeres could do better. I think saying that he has to be able to do an element of the hold-up play better, the same as Erling Haaland does do a good job. There are things that I won't blame on his teammates, and he has to take accountability for. But equally, there are times where he makes a run off the shoulder and the ball don't go in early. Just look at the goal Haaland scored yesterday. That was a very good cross put into a dangerous area. I want to see more. I mean, I had the same problem at Man United when it comes to with Šeško. The amount of times we don't put balls in like that, and I'm thinking you've got a 6'6" beanpole in there that can head the ball. Fucking cross.
We do when he's not playing.
Yeah, as soon as he comes off, we start knocking balls into the box. Like, what are we doing?
The best thing about that cross yesterday for City was it was an early cross. It was just it weren't. Whereas with Arsenal, we slow it down so much that we allow teams to reset before we cross the ball in. And that's half the problem as well. So.
To the point Wolfie made, I remember when we signed RVP, there was something that came out that Fergie said to his midfielders, if you cannot find him, you're not playing.
Exactly.
Right? Find him as soon as possible. Yeah. Look up, find RVP. And I guess you got a point there. He laid the groundwork for RVP to be successful. Granted, there was a lot of top players there, but there's a lot of the top players at Arsenal, isn't there? Right? So I think Arteta, there is a point there that he needs to make the point. Find Gyokeres. If you can't find him, you're not playing. And yeah, maybe he's not doing that per se, right?
Well, there was that one early ball that went into the box in the second half where he touches it, turns, has a good shot that just goes wide. Strikers need more than... So I find a balance, right? And I think Gyokeres is better than... Sorry, my dog's at the door moaning. Wants to come in. He wants to cuddle. Rasmus, I don't think it's as good as Gyokeres. But the amount of times I'd watch him play, and he'd do bad things, and I criticised him. But the amount of times you're thinking, well, get an early ball in, send him through. He's better than he could have scored more goals if there was better supply to him. And I think there's always a balance in these conversations. But yeah,
it also felt with Rasmus that the rest of the team didn't trust to give him the ball.
True.
It kind of felt like that. Yeah. And the other difference as well, how much did you pay for him? 72 mil?
Yeah, crazy stuff.
Something like that. At the end of the day, even if Gyokeres flops, he costs Arsenal what, about 50 mil?
It was crazy money, yeah.
Yeah, that's cheaper than Elanga. 50 mil
but
for a striker.
When was the last time they got like a marquee striker like that? And for that marquee striker to then, I'm not going to say he's failed, it's early days, but let's say he does. Let's say it's not looking great. I mean, will they ever go again and get a marquee striker like that? It will almost put the board off. It will put the scouting department off.
You've got to look at other things as well. Like, I'll give you another example, Aubameyang. For 2 seasons running under Unai Emery, won the Golden Boot.
Yeah.
Arteta takes over, and Aubameyang's doing this dropping deep thing. He falls off a cliff, and then all of a sudden, because he can't do the link-up play, he ends up shoehorned out onto the left-hand side, and Lacazette is the one playing up front. So it just shows me that the type of striker that Arteta wants isn't the natural get in the
Yeah.
box, goal scoring striker. It's this guy who does all the link-up play, and that's why we play Marino there.
He wants a Wayne Rooney. That's what he wants. That's who would be the ideal for this Arsenal team. Is someone that can play like. But there was only ever one of him, and none
or
exist
a Harry
anymore.
Kane. Or a Harry Kane.
I mean, Harry Kane could. I mean, that should be
Or
where they go after in the summer. Since he got an A- in maths, I've been telling him he is useless. I've been yelling and abusing him. I don't understand why he keeps dropping even more. Harold here says a little joke in regards to the fan abuse at Arsenal. Now, Harold is a United fan, but he is a fellow Norwegian, so he's obviously on his side. No, not he's Swede.
Norwegian.
No, he's Norwegian.
Norwegian. That's Norwegian.
No, he's Norwegian, but I think he's very. They're all Scandinavians, all close up. They're all close, aren't you, Scandinavians? Gyokeres has had 4.3 xG all season in terms of creation for him, compared to Haaland, who's had 14.5. Somehow he is always a scapegoat. Greg, do you put some of this down to lack of creation? Do you think some of it, though, looking at the other side of the coin, is some of this maybe movement not being as good as Haaland, finding the space as well? Yeah. Because I'd also say that about Rasmus. Sometimes his movement was awful or non-existent.
I always say the best strikers create their own chances, even when they're off the ball. Erling Haaland is a good example of that. I think someone like Edison Cavani, why he was always top in XG, because he has the best movement probably in striker history. Ruben and INEOS was probably the same back in the day. Their strikers obviously could do it with their dribbling and they create their own shot, but in terms of like the poacher, you're moving. Osimhen is another good example. Osimhen just gets in the box and just tussles, and he creates his own chances. Those are the best strikers. And Gyokeres, the issue with Gyokeres is he tries to play a brand of football that just doesn't fit him. He tries to play the bully ball. He's not a bully. First of all, he's got short arms, so he can't really pin back center backs. So that makes it tough for him. So it's just simple as that. It's Højlund. I think Højlund had the same issue. Højlund tried to tussle and try to like back down center backs. He just doesn't have the strength. He doesn't have the technique to like get the ball, hold it up, shrug off defenders, and lay it off. I think someone like Sesko, for example, has shown that he could do that a little bit at United. Mateta, who is I think smaller than Gyokeres, but he's got more strength. He's more able to tussle. That's the issue with Gyokeres. And Arteta, I'm not gonna blame Gyokeres for this. Arteta wants him to play like a Mateta does, hold the ball up, lay it off, or like a Kai Havertz, who is skinny but he's taller and he also knows how to use his body better. It's as simple as that. You have to, as a striker, you have to understand your own body first, like how, like what you can do, your strengths, and then it's up to the coach to also utilize those strengths and not the limitations. And I think for Gyokeres, he probably would have been better at United. Obviously, he would have a coach that knows him well. Not that I think he would bark up any trees over here too. But Arsenal, I don't know what Arteta wants. I really don't. Yeah, maybe he wants a Kai Havertz, but I just don't think Arteta can coach an attack really well. It's as simple as that.
That's the thing that you said, Griggs. I have a little bit of criticism for Gyokeres. Is the best example I can give was Diogo Jota. Jota used to be, his movement was incredible. Like I think a centre back, I think it was like a Norwich City centre back, was saying like when he played against Jota, 1 minute he looked at him, he was there. Next minute he wasn't there. Then the next minute after that, he scores a goal.
Relentless.
That's the kind of movement that you need from your strikers, especially if you want to be the top level striker in the Premier League. Like, you can have all the physicality. We saw what happened with Lukaku. Lukaku had the physicality, the pace, everything. But everything else just wasn't there. He scored goals. But when he played for the likes of United, for Chelsea, especially when United were
even West Brom, he scored. Was it a hat trick in Fergie's last game? I don't want to go off topic, but
but it's when
Lukaku was able to create a shot for himself because he was
but now imagine
agile enough. That's why.
Now imagine Lukaku dropping deep like what Havertz and Marino does.
Yeah, that's it.
It ain't happening because his first touch is it's awful. And Gyokeres is the same. It's the weakest part of their game. So
the truth, Brandon, is it's not about Arteta. It's not about Gyokeres. They're a team, right? They're part of a team. They need to figure it out together and fast, right? I mean, we use Haaland as an example, but there's loads of times he doesn't get the ball when he wants it. The guy never stops hassling his defense. I mean, he's hassling the grass. He runs on it so much. You know what I mean? I just don't see Gyokeres with that intensity, that fitness. So that's my point on Gyokeres. But yes, you made some great points, Brandon. Aubameyang didn't shine under Arteta either, so he hasn't got a track record of making strikers sign. And I'd argue he was at Man City with Pep. Who did they have then? Was it Aguero? And he's kind of a hybrid that you're talking about, like a Rooney, like a Harry Kane. So has he ever been part of a team that has an out-and-out striker? I don't think he has. So I don't know. It's a tough one, but they've got to come together fast.
I think he's had 8 strikers under his tenure at Arsenal.
But this is his first actual this is his first, like, I mean, there's so much context with the Aubameyang, because I still remember when we were having those debates about Aubameyang in 2021. Many people were saying whether it was the contract, he got that contract, now he feels as though he's more or less completed football in that sort of sense. There's a lot more context behind it. I feel as though this is the first out and out striker.
Yeah, I think with the Aubameyang thing as well, there was also the element of turning up late for training, professionalism. I think that always seems to get forgotten about, and people just act like, oh, he was just moved on because he wasn't playing. I think there was a combination of things there. This year says enough with the banter. Play to his strengths before calling him a flop. He's a traditional number 9. We need to see Gyokeres miss 5 or 6 chances in a game. That's one of the biggest things I will say. I watch every game of every top 6 team. I can't remember once this season him being put through clean on goal. That's a mad thing when you think, and I thought by now we'd have seen, and part of that is also teams sit so deep against Arsenal, even when losing. Still, what they try to do is go, right, it's 1-0. Let's try and keep it at 1-0 to the last 10 minutes. What I will say, in fairness, when I saw Brentford play away at City, those fuckers were on the halfway line and Haaland just run through. Maybe you know, it would probably help Gyokeres if he was at a team. Like when he scored his hat-trick against City, I know that 2 of the goals were penalties, but the amount of space that Sporting had to run in behind, he hasn't had that at Arsenal either.
What I will say about Arsenal, sorry, before you do that one, is I think they already have their perfect Arteta striker, and that's Gabriel Jesus, to be honest. He does everything that Arteta wants, and he is but he's bloody dangerous. And if he stays fit, they've got a massive chance in winning it. I'll be honest, more so than Gyokeres coming good, I think. But look, we'll see.
Yeah, doesn't score enough goals from it.
But you know, if my fanny had, if my uncle had a fanny, it'd be me aunt. Cheers, Wolfie.
I gotta jump, boys. I'll catch you later.
If Ram had a winkle, it'd be a boy. Do you know what I mean? All these things happen. It's
hilarious.
What the hell?
Hilarious.
Shocking.
Treat first team players like it's an elite squad. Like who?
Dev Griggs treats SEAL Team 6, obviously some sort of military.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. We shouldn't play academies for the sake of culture. This is killing United Academy to compare it to Chelsea. See, this is the difference. So again, I understand if you're sending out a team of 6 SEALs to save somebody's life. You need people in peak condition with experience, not rookies. But that isn't what sport is. Sport isn't about the equivalence is so crazy. Now, again, would I pick, if we had a fully fit squad full of world-class players, would I pick an academy player like Shea Lacey to start a cup final over our best winger? No, nobody's asking for that. So again, you've got to give. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it, but it's a false equivalence. What I would like to see, though, is if we were up against, if we're 4-0 up in a game, 20 minutes to go, bit of time added on, you give a youngster an opportunity to see what he can do at this level. That's important to me. What I also wouldn't expect the people to do is slag off all their up-and-coming recruits and they're all crap and shit and don't deserve a chance. Because then what happens is you never have a trail of new team of 6 coming through when the other guys get older. Balance, my friend. Balance.
I like how you brought up Chelsea in the comment, because I remember the year after they lost Hazard, right? After 18-19, 19-20, they had the transfer ban and Lampard came in. Let's not forget, Lampard got top 4 with a team that he played mostly academy kids. And the year after, that top 4 finish got them into the Champions League. And the year after, they won the Champions League. I know he wasn't the coach to do it, but it laid the foundations. That's what playing the youth does. It lays the foundations, and then you can go get your world-class superstars. Terry's right. I'm not going to ask if we had, let's say, prime Luka Modric in the team. I'm not going to ask for Kobe Manu to play over him. But the matter of the fact is that you're not playing academy guys over guys that aren't even fit to be in the squad. For example, Shea Lacey is not going to be in the squad tonight. You know who's going to be in the squad tonight? Tara Malacia. He was in the bomb squad 2 months ago. Why is he there?
Or just buy better quality, man. Just buy better quality. That's it.
You can come out of the bomb squad. You're not permanently in the bomb squad. It's good to see Malacia back there. I honestly, I
not
think
really,
this
It's
is
not,
great.
it's not hard. It's not hard. Just buy better quality players, man. That's
What I
it.
don't agree with what Terry said earlier is I wouldn't sacrifice winning the league just because of the academy and the history.
Well, it's obviously
I would win the
sorry.
league and
Yeah.
then go back to that. That's what I'm saying.
So I understand that. Look, I gave a polarizing example, but as we went on to discuss that these options aren't really available. I wouldn't sacrifice our history though, because there's no chance it will come back. And if we're not acting like Man United, then we're not Man United. At the end of the day, if we go away from being what we are, then we're not Man United, are we? We might as well just we might as well change everything. The name of the club, the whole thing.
I know you want to stop this, but do you think we've been Man United for the last 12, 13 years?
No, that's why I've called it the way out we've been run.
But we have used academy graduates in the last 12, 13 years.
Yes, but what we've done, and this is one of the fundamental points people forget. What we did different to when we brought through the Busby Babes and when we brought through more so when we brought through the class of 92, is you brought the class of 92 through with a solid squad and core of grown-ups who'd already won the league and were our talisman. They were expected to be our winners. And Gary Neville spoke about this on Monday Night Football. I remember it's the best segment he's ever done. Oh, how good do you think McTominay and Rashford will be? Well, you never know how good a youngster's going to become. He said the worry I have for the McTominays and Rashfords is they're our stars and we're expecting them to be the match winners. When we came through, it was the Brian McClares, the Andy Coles, the Pallisters, the Bruces, the Cantonars that were the kids weren't expected to be our match winners. There's a different pressure applied. So we haven't done it in the way that Man United did it in the past. We've done it the wrong way round. So no one's saying just give academy players a chance willy-nilly. You need the structuring. You need the experience there. It's a combination of the two. That's the Man United way.
Also this,
and we should never ignore it.
In the past 10 years, you want to talk about what the academy's done. Is these academy kids that have put the pressure of the club on their back. We want to disrespect Marcus Rashford, but he's the one that put this club on his back and was the main talisman for years. In the cup final, when as in his debut, he scored 2 in the Europa League. He scored a brace against Arsenal. He scored a key goal against, I think it was West Ham in the FA Cup, a cup that we ended up winning. Those guys are the one. Pogba.
I agree.
Pogba was the best midfielder in the world when we signed him, or one of the best. He had options from every football club, but he wanted to come back to United because he's from Carrington and he had a job to finish. That's what the institution means to the club. And that's why I talk about the academy. These are the players. These are the people that understand what Manchester United is. It is not Ruben Amorim from Casapia that understands what Man United is. It's the Kobe Mainers. It's the Marcus Rashford. It's the Scott McTominays. And these players consistently leaving is a death to Manchester United. That the death's not going to happen right now, but the death's going to trickle. It's going to be like abscess. It's going to keep dying and dying and dying.
Yeah.
Until the identity
I've got to shoot because I've got an appointment to get to. But this here says Ekitike would have worked well at Arsenal. FYI, everyone should not forget that we have tried the Havertz and Jesus in the striker role in the past seasons, and it didn't work. And can anybody mention any academy player that came through Man United's first team when the class of 92 was in their pomp from 98 to 2012 that became a mainstay? Darren
Fletcher.
Darren Fletcher would be a name in there.
Danny Welbeck.
Wes Brown as well is a name that I would put in there. That man was involved in 2 Champions League winning squads and was integral in a good few seasons of winning trophies. Were they as good as a class of 92? I reckon a couple of them were on Phil Neville, Gary Neville level in terms of player, but not that same.
Also, John O'Shea is another one.
John O'Shea was another really good player. There's no doubt about that. Look, thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to be back live a little bit later tonight after the Man United game. I've got an appointment to shoot to now, but thank you. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again soon. Peace.